I'm good. I'm so excited you're here today. And I laugh because I'm going to say excited probably 20 times on the call. So I'm going to just be zen and I'm going to be calm, cool, calm, and collected. And it's going to be great. So
No, I'm going to be excited with you. We don't have to be cool and calm.
And I love your bandana. That's fantastic. Stylish as always. As always. Well, thank you for joining us. My name is Nicole Vogel. I'm the Senior Programs Manager at the USO, lead on all military spouse programs that we currently have. I am an Air Force spouse of about 10 years and currently in the Virginia area with my husband and 2 little kiddos. But for the spouses that are currently on the call, if you could also type in where you're calling in from, we'd love to see who's joining us today. And again, feel free to use the chat box as a tool to make connections with other spouses. And then if you do have any questions for Carla later on, we'll make sure we get to those. Just type them in the Q&A box. So Carla, for those who might not know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? It's a loaded question.
I know. I always think, where do I start?
Right.
A lot of people may know me from Top Chef, which I did 11 years ago. I can't believe it's been 11 years. I'm 55 now, and I did that show at 44. But I used to be an accountant. I thought I was going to do theater. I ended up doing accounting. Then I was modeling. Then I got into food. I went to culinary school at 30.
Wow.
So career changer several times over. I sold water filters. I did all kinds of things. And and install them, mind you. I installed them. I did Top Chef twice. I did season 5 and season 8.
Okay.
And I was also on The Chew for 7 seasons from 2011 to 2018. And so that ended a year ago. And you'll also see me on some shows on the Food Network, the Halloween Baking Championship. This year will be the 5th season that I've done. And then the Thanksgiving Ultimate Cook-Off, which will be the 7th season this year, and a bunch of Beat Bobby plays and stuff like that.
So just a couple things,
things.
Around. Yeah. I love it.
And actually, this tour that I've done for the USO is my 5th tour.
Wow. Okay, so with that, where else have you been on tour with the USO?
I've been to Colorado.
Okay.
I've been to San Diego. I've been to Virginia because I live in DC.
Yep.
And I did a tour in Italy and Spain.
Okay.
And now here. And I feel like there was another one, but yeah.
So where are you today, and what were you doing today with the service members and families?
I am getting a facial here in the humid San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, joy.
Because I honestly love the heat, because I go out and I'm like, okay, this is good for my skin. This is good for my skin. And we were at the Vogel Resiliency Center in their kitchen and teaching some military families how to make biscuits.
Nice.
The thing that I do. So I love doing these cooking classes. This was the first time that I had another person with me, who is my biscuit buddy, Chadwick Boyd.
Okay.
For making biscuits. So Chadwick and I were going to all of these different places. So we were in the Student Activity Center, and then we were in the Military and Family Readiness Center, and everybody thought he was Clinton Kelly. They're like, I love you guys. I'm like, just go with it. Just go with it.
Well, you can't go wrong with biscuits. And what's the tip to the best biscuit? Is there a secret tip or trick?
Yeah, there are a couple of them. So one, in measuring your flour, and this is with anything that when you're baking, it's good to pour the flour into a bowl if you don't have it in a big canister, and whisk the flour, or use a sifter before you measure.
Okay.
And level the measuring cup off, so you get a straight edge and you level it off. The other thing is to use cold butter, not room temperature, not barely cold, so frozen or really cold. And then I grate that butter into the flour instead of just cutting it and pinching it. So that way that the butter pieces are even. And then you're going to pinch those butter pieces to incorporate those into the flour. Another tip is when you see on the recipe buttermilk, a lot of times the buttermilk is low fat, which you can use that, but you can increase the fat by mixing heavy cream, not heavy cream, sour cream, like full fat.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So you can do full fat sour cream and milk, and those are two ingredients that you probably already have, and you don't have to think, oh, I need to do buttermilk.
Right.
And I don't use anything else. Although buttermilk is really good in mashed potatoes. What?
Oh,
and then when you, I love although I don't have mashed potatoes for Thanksgiving, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, okay, I'm still going. So,
fine. That's what we're here for.
The other thing is when you're going to roll out the biscuits, I don't use a rolling pin. I just pat them with my hands because I don't want them to work. I don't want them to be overworked. And the batter is stickier than you would think because you need that wetness to create steam, which creates a lift. But you spray the surface with cooking spray, and then you put flour on top of that, and that holds the flour in place. And then you put your sticky dough and more flour, and you do that. When you punch them out, and then you do turns. I mean, it's a whole thing. But
it is.
And I know. You thought it was going to be a couple of tips.
And I'm like, get out the canister, put it on. No.
And then you pop that little biscuit can. Right. But you punch them out, and then when you punch them out, there's a pinched edge where you punch them, where you turn that over because that's going to give you a little bit more of a lift, and then a hot oven. So, I mean, just a few tips. Take one or take them all.
Love it. I've never heard of grating butter before. So that's new to me.
Mm-hmm. By the way, hi, y'all. How are you all doing?
I know everybody's in the chat box talking. I love it. I love these conversations going on. So thank you, everybody, for chiming in. And
somebody said how much sour cream? So it's 2 parts sour cream to 1 part milk, and
Perfect. Everybody, side note. All right, we're all gonna make biscuits tonight. Tomorrow morning, we're gonna figure this out. Okay, good. So you've done about 5 USO tours. You've been all over. Do you have any connections to the military, or anyone in your family to the military?
I don't. So this is my way of giving back. My father tried to get into the Army, and then he had asthma. They were like, no. My husband tried to get into the Army, but he had an injury where it's something with his spleen, or it's not there, or something. I don't know. But so he was rejected. And so the USO is my way of being able to give back and to say thank you personally.
Well, thank you. And again, thank you for doing this. We are obsessed with you at the USO, so this is great. You were talking about with all of the jobs that you had, to include changing water filters.
Yes, I sold the water filters. I did. And then I crawled under the sink, to work like this. That was me. Yes. Okay. With my hands.
Skills, many skills. So it's interesting to me that you said that, because military spouses, because we move so much, we can move, 10 to 12 times within a 20-year military career. And sometimes we have to use our skills or, our previous jobs to kind of figure out what we want to do at our next assignment or something like that. So you haven't always been a chef. So can you tell us a little bit about where you started out and the path that brought you to the career that you have today?
So I have a varied past, and a lot of times people think that I set these goals to be on television. And I just want to remind everyone, I was 44 years old before I did the Chew. So that meant that I had all of this whole other lifetime, like many of you have had. You have this whole other lifetime before you step into something that seems like you've been doing it forever.
Right.
I wanted to do theater. I loved theater. I was painfully shy as a child, and I saw my first play in New York City, which was Bubbling Brown Sugar, and my uncle was in it, and I was like, this so much.
Right.
And left that play singing this one song for a month, and my mother was like, we're going to put you into theater. And it ended up saving me, because in a child, being that I was so awkward and so shy, theater was all about be you, be yourself, dare to be different, and all of that. So even though I was kind of the weird kid, when people said, Carla, you're so weird, I'm like, thanks.
Yes.
This is amazing, right?
Yeah.
Yay! So I did theater from 12 to 17 in Nashville at the Children's Theater. And then I wanted to go to Boston University to major in theater. And they put me into, they deferred my admissions and they were going to put me into their liberal arts program. And I didn't realize that Boston University was known for their liberal arts program and it was very competitive. I just saw that as a rejection. I'm like, what? I can't do theater? So I just said, okay, fine. I'm not going to do theater. I'm going to major in accounting. My sister was going to Howard University in DC. So I said, okay,
Numbers are fun.
Yeah, no. I love, you know what? I love my teacher. So it's amazing how really caring about somebody or a teacher will actually influence a life decision. So I really liked my teacher. I love puzzles. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to major in accounting. And I got out of Howard and I ended up working for Price Waterhouse. I took the CPA exam and did all of that, but I hated my job.
Yeah.
And I was honestly afraid of being 40 and hating my job. And I just thought I was going to be stuck in this job. And I said I would die. And my grandmother always said, it is your job to be happy, not to be rich. And I think I was the only one who actually heard that. And so I was like, okay.
Right.
My mother was like, she was so happy that I majored in accounting because she was like, whew, I dodged a bullet that my child didn't try to do theater.
Right.
So, here I am, you know, and I think just in my heart of hearts, I really needed to find this joy. And you don't know what that is. So I moved to France, as one would do. I started modeling. And that's a whole other story in and of itself. But I went to France. I had 10 words of French that I knew. And I had one telephone number of a girl who I was going to contact there. And I had a pensione living in this room where the ceiling was like this. And I was taller. And so I was constantly walking around like this. And it was a walk up and everything. It was not glamorous at all. And so I was modeling there in Paris and in London. And I would go back and forth to the States to do runway stuff. And I didn't make any money, but it was kind of fun. But for me, that period was the bridge between what I knew I didn't want to do, which was accounting, an office job, and what I eventually wanted to do. And I didn't know what that was. So it was really about discovering myself. But the other thing that I realized about myself in this period, and probably in hindsight more as I got older than at the time, I feel when people say, oh, you were so brave and bold in going to France and not knowing anybody. And a lot of you all, because you move so much, you have those skills of adaptability.
Yeah.
I was afraid of failure. So I was less afraid of going somewhere and not knowing anybody than I was to be in a place to fail.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. So I did that, and then I came back and I started hanging out with people in kitchens, you know, and like the models were in, you know, like cooking and everything, and I was like, and they were like, oh, my mother does it like this, oh, my mother does it like that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, even though I had Sunday supper at my grandmother's house every Sunday, I have no idea what she was doing in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So I started buying cookbooks, and I was just enjoying the process of cooking because it was like a puzzle. And I started really getting into it when I finally left London, because at this point I moved to London. I started a lunch delivery service as a complete fluke. And this is when you find opportunities that you didn't know were there. And I truly believe, again, this is another hindsight moment.
Yeah.
When you are really scared of doing something, like you're like, oh my gosh, like almost immobilized with fear. That's probably the universe saying to do that, because if you do it, the payoff is so great. And you may not find the payoff immediately, but I think you will eventually find it. So for me, I was doing some food for my sister's baby shower, and a friend couldn't come, and I had made these scones, like these biscuits. I had made a quiche and this lemon blueberry bread, and all this other stuff that I'd been, that when I left, nobody knew I cooked, and I came back and I'm like, oh, this, look at me now. And so my friend couldn't come, and I said, oh, I'll bring you some leftovers tomorrow. She's like, great, because there's nothing to eat around here. And I said, oh, well, if you don't have anything to eat, that means all the other people around you don't have anything to eat. So I got up the next morning, my brother-in-law, because I was living with my sister and brother-in-law, he had eaten the leftovers. So I had to make all this food over because I promised my friend, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like an audition and I don't have the food. So I made more food and I go and I'm like, what am I going to put it in? And I said, oh, here's a basket. So I go and I put all the food in the picnic basket in these little bags. Now I had a whole lot of food, not just leftovers. So I get there, and my friend Patrice says to the doctor and the woman who was working the front desk, hey, this is my friend Carla. She has a business. And I'm like,
I do?
In my head, I'm like, what? I do?
Right.
So they were like, oh, what's the name of your business? And I said, The Lunch Basket.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, when are you coming back? I said, tomorrow. So from that moment, every single day, I would go to the grocery store, I would make stuff, I would put it in the basket, and I would go to this office. And I went door to door from hair salons, doctor's offices, barbershops, and I would start selling these sandwiches. And I didn't have a business plan. Within a week, I had 7 places that I would visit. Within 2 weeks, I had 14. And I did that for 5 years.
I love it. It gives me goosebumps to hear that story. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. And I was scared, and I didn't make any money, and I was struggling. But I think the joy that I got, one, that you get that instant gratification when people are telling you that they like your things. And then I was making these biscuits with smoked turkey, and they would say, oh, how are the biscuits? I said, well, let me just give you one. Because I knew that if I gave them one on Monday, they would get 3 on Tuesday, and make extra. And it was just really fun. And I did that for 5 years until I went to culinary school at 30. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And so catering, and I did all of that. And then I did Top Chef at 44. Oh, I worked in restaurant. I went to culinary school, worked in restaurants for a couple of years. And then I worked at a social club as the director and the chef. And then from there I did Top Chef. And so, yeah. Yeah.
And then here we are.
Here we are.
I love it. I mean, it's just, it shows that, you don't have to be stuck in something that you don't want to do. And that you talk about joy a lot too. And on your website, it's cooking with love, living with joy.
Yes.
And I absolutely love that. Can you go a little bit more into that and why you chose kind of like that as part of your website?
Yeah, well, in this journey, for me, I had found spirituality in terms of, and it's very different from religion. And it was just sort of the thing that made me take more control of my life and take ownership and responsibility. And so I got to the place where whatever I did, it needed to come from my heart. And so it comes from my heart, the people will feel it. And because, when you don't want to do something, like something as simple as the trash. And I think back to when I was a kid and my mom was like, Carla, take the trash out. Now, mind you, I'm a Taurus. I just want to put that out there. I had the trash. I was actually at the door when my mother says, Carla, take out the trash. Child, I let that door slam. I went to the trash back. Okay, I got in trouble for that. So now when I'm going out with the trash, I push the door open and then I cut my arm. And so I didn't want to do it. And whenever you don't want to do something, the energy behind it is that you didn't want to do it. Now it's going to take twice as long. I cut my hand, the bag breaks, whatever it is.
Right.
But when you do something with joy, when you find that joy in something, it will just be so much easier. And you are affecting people around you.
Yeah.
So that really is the whole thing about cooking with joy, because also in cooking for people, they are ingesting your energy.
Yeah.
And so I want to give them something that's beautiful and something that is sustainable and warm and comforting, and because it's an honor to cook for people.
Right. And well, and I feel like when you have one of those meals where you know it was cooked with love, you just feel it. Like you taste
Yes.
it, feel it, you know it. So absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you keep talking about biscuits. Like you did biscuits today, but then you were talking about how you did biscuits for your business.
Yes.
Full circle, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Okay. So, for military spouses that have different skills or different hobbies, and they're listening to you right now, about you took what you love and you turned it into something that you're doing today. Do you have any tips for them, for military spouses that might be good at, a certain skill, let's say photography or something like that, that you could help them guide on the right path to maybe turning it into a career or turning it into a passion?
Yeah, probably a lot of the things that you do well and easily, you probably are taking for granted.
Yeah.
A lot of times, if you have to move a home every 3 to 3.5 years, you're probably very organized.
True story.
Organizational skills can translate into being an assistant. Oh my God, we have the same cup.
Stop. Look at that.
Look at us.
Sip.
I'm just saying. Okay, that was my squirrel for that moment.
I need the
bandana. So I know one thing. My assistant is remote, so she lives in North Carolina. I am in DC and New York. So a lot of my team, I have somebody who is helping me do some low-level social media. She lives in Berlin. I have my social media person who also travels with me sometimes doing things. She writes in my speeches and things like that. She lives in DC, even though a lot of times we're not together. So there are so many things that you can do that are remote, that you can support somebody else. Being somebody's executive assistant, when you are handling their calendar and setting up meetings and all of those things, you don't have to be in their town, and you can be anywhere, and that job travels with you. So if you're moving to another city, it doesn't mean that that support and all that you've built up goes away, because it moves with you. So something like photography, those kinds of things that you can do online. The one great thing about online and the presence of IT is that your business goes with you.
Yeah.
So I think it's about figuring out what those jobs are and how they translate to your skill set, and to know that you can do it. And you are half the battle for any business. And this is talking to somebody who was a caterer. And when I started, I wasn't that organized, is organization.
Yeah.
Half of it is organization and having spreadsheets and being organized and knowing from step A to B to C. And that honestly doesn't come easy for a lot of people. So if you have that skill, you need to let people know that you have their backs, because
right. No, absolutely.
Yeah, that is a huge thing, seriously. And I think that even in photography or taking pictures, if you're a photographer and you can do stock photos and go out and take pictures and put them up, load them online and take them, so.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fantastic. And that's a huge thing for military spouses, is how can I make it portable? What I love to do portable. So that's huge. So thank you for that. So let's talk about your husband. You and your husband have a huge following from Top Chef, and I'm sure from just other things that you've been to, and with your Dee Hoo, which we're going to have to hear first, call in response to one another. So what best practices do you have for communicating and staying close with your husband or with your partner in a military spouse's situation when you're far apart?
Right. That is the perfect question, because even though we aren't in the military, I travel a lot.
Right.
So Matthew is based in DC. I saw Matthew yesterday, and the next time I see him will be October 15th in London.
Stop.
So, I know.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm deployed, but not to take that lightly.
Right.
So the one thing that we had to get into this rhythm because I was staying in New York. That was my domain when I had the chew, and he was in DC, and we had our rhythm in those places. And so he would come to DC, and I'm like, I don't leave that there. I don't, I would go home he would come to New York, and I was like, wait, I don't leave that there. And I have my own rhythm, and I would go to DC, and that became his domain. It's like, why are you leaving the shoes there? I don't leave that, right? And so it was this dance, and honestly, we just decided, I said, this is what's happening, and you have to communicate. It is so important to communicate. And a lot of times we assume that the other person can read our minds, but they can't. Yeah. And Matthew is so much better at it than I am. So I had to say, okay, this is what I'm doing. And we had to come to terms with that whole thing. So now, I'm like, hey, you run DC, I run New York, Yep. The other thing is, it's just asking questions. So I'm wearing this t-shirt right now, and it says wisdom begins in wonder.
Love it.
That is the key to your marriage. If you can create a time, just being curious and just being curious about what the other is doing, and you're asking those questions, otherwise you get into a rut. And so what I had to realize that the day-to-day things that we would have if we were living together, I was missing. So I had to think, like, what questions do I ask him about his day, and how can we talk? So that's that. The other thing, a year ago, Matthew used to work for the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, and he did government relations, and he was an attorney. And he had supported me so much in my job, and it became Carla, and he was supporting me. Well, I'm like, what about you? What do you want to do? Right. And I know that the wives can totally relate to this because it's your husband, and then it's you. Right. Or, and then you fall by the wayside in all of the things that you're doing to support him. If you don't have your own thing, it is really, really hard to kind of bust out and be together. So Matthew, I said, what do you want to do? And for 3 years, I was like, what do you want to do? Finally, he decides to get his yoga teacher training, and we talked about it for a year. We planned for it. So he quit his job, and he is teaching yoga.
How cool is that?
He is so happy. And just seeing that he has his own thing, and it's not about me and my thing, I can support him knowing that he loves that thing. And I'm not saying that everybody can do that, but if it's art, if it's photography, whatever the thing is, make sure that your spouse understands that you love this thing.
Yeah.
And just to support you in that way, and to see your joy in that is yours. You know what I mean? Because so often, and I see that Amy is saying, Carla, you're really hitting this thing. And I can't see the other side of that, but you can disappear so easily and lose yourself. And I think that's one of the things that I learned about resiliency today, and how a military person can lose themselves because they don't know where they end and the military begins, and vice versa.
Right.
And so you have to constantly just sort of connect onto this thing that you love and keep. And sometimes, and this is what I did when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I left accounting and all of this, learning what you want to do is knowing what you don't want to do. You're going to do a lot of stuff you don't want to do, but you have to try it. Like, okay, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So that I figured out. But seeing Matthew, and I was just saying to him yesterday, I'm so proud of him. And when you find that thing that you like to do, the joy that emanates from him, I feel it. Mm-hmm. And I'm so happy for him. And I tell him, I said, I think that, not that our marriage was in trouble, but it's like, I know that when he's at home, he's working on himself and I'm working on myself, so that when we come together, it's not this codependency, and we are coming together each as a whole. And so we're supporting each other as a whole. Not like, it's like this, but right. Not like you're giving yourself up.
Yeah. Well, and doing that thing together too. So
yes.
Are you into yoga as well?
I go to his classes.
Okay.
So when I'm in DC, I go to his classes, and he's such an amazing teacher that I'm like, even if you weren't my husband, I would be at your class because it's so amazing. Right. And I'll be working when I'm in London. And so he's coming there because it's a great opportunity for us to be together. And so he will just take off on his classes. And that was another thing. So he wasn't able to, when he was working at the FDA, he had his job, I had my job in New York. And so we had to be separate. Now we have the flexibility where he can come. And we've even done things where, okay, I'm going to do this wellness weekend. I'm going to cook. He's going to do yoga. And so we come together with our separate things to work together. And it's amazing.
Oh, I love it. So does he like to cook?
Yes, he cooks at home now. I cook at the office. Yeah.
Oh, that is, I mean, everybody, you can tell in the chat, and we'll have to look at this later, but I think people are loving this. This is great.
Yeah.
So let's see here. I think that's everything that I had, because I knew there were going to be so many questions from everyone that's dialing in. So let me take a look at these questions and see what we have here. Okay, so from Jenna, she wants to know, when you're creating new recipes, what are some places that you pull your inspiration from?
My inspiration comes from so many different things. Sometimes it comes from a different culture. Sometimes it comes from what I see at the farmer's market. Sometimes it comes from going to a restaurant and I see that somebody has treated something so differently. Like, for instance, I went to this restaurant, I feel like it was in Austin. Oh my God. They had these sweet potatoes that had been roasted and cooked in coals. And then they took them out, peeled them, and finished them on the grill. And they had this char on them. Oh,
yum.
So for me, I'm like, okay, that works for sweet potatoes. It works for celery root. It works for carrots. And so I do these smashed vegetables and I do a drizzle of, I can put spices on them. I can do some kind of sour cream, cheesy thing, whatever, you know what I mean? So it comes from all kinds of different things in different places. When I judge on a competition, sometimes I see a chef or a baker do something. I'm like, I would have thought about that. And I'm not stealing from them, but I'm like, just the fact that there is no pure dish. And so everybody gets inspiration from everybody. I mean, when you look at the spice root and cultures and how they add to a particular dish. So that's where I get my inspiration.
Well, and out of curiosity from myself, when you were overseas and in Paris and in London, did you pull any of your ideas or what you learned over there? Do you use a lot of that as well? Or
yes, absolutely. So when I had my lunch delivery service and I had been in London for about a year, and they have this salad called the Coronation Chicken Salad. Mm-hmm. And it's a curry chicken salad, right? So delicious. So it was curry and raisins and apples and, or they used grapes. And I started doing that. I started doing raisins, and I would make this salad when I came back home. But they also have an incredible Indian population. And so there are these Singapore noodles. So it's these curry noodles with these thin angel hair pasta with vegetables. And I had never had that before. So that was amazing. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Travel.
Good. Okay, so from Amy, was there a specific dish or food item that you wanted to learn to make when you first started? She wrote, when I first wanted to learn to cook, I wanted to make gumbo. At the time, I had no idea of how big of an aspiration it was, but that's the first real thing I learned to cook.
Oh, it's such a great question. Okay, so the first thing that I learned to cook that I really wanted to cook was chicken pot pie. That's why whenever you saw me on Top Chef, and I was like, oh my God, chicken pot pie. Chicken pot pie is such a loaded thing for me from when I got it as a child. So getting those Swanson's chicken pot pies was always a treat because it meant that the babysitter was there and I got that chicken pot pie and I would eat it around the crust and throw the crust in there. And so when I learned of Julia Childs, I had this cookbook and I had her recipe. Child, that thing took me 3 days to make. I swear, it took me 3 days. So I boiled the chicken, and I had to take it out of the cool. Then I had to pick it. Then in her recipe, she puts the vegetables in whole. So the carrots and the celery and the onion were in there whole. You had to take those out, let them cool, and then cut that out. And then you had to strain all that, and then you made the sauce, and then you put it back, and then you had to make the crust. Okay, I didn't make
That's time.
It was crazy, but that was my inspirational thing. That was the thing when I made that. You can tell me anything. I was like, I made chicken pot pie,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
it still has that feeling for me.
Oh, I love it. Oh, that's one of my top 5 like go-tos is if somebody's like, well, what should we bring or what can I make? And I just had a baby, so people were like, what can we bring, so that you don't have to bake? And I'm like, chicken pot pie. That is
yes, and I like crust on the bottom. Okay, so here's a tip for you. So when you're doing your chicken pot pie or anything like that, or even a cobbler, like a 2-crust cobbler, I cook the crust just plain in a square, separate on a sheet pan, and then I put it into the dish for my chicken pot pie, put the filling on top, so that way it creates this cooked dumpling. Because child, let me tell y'all, right here, now, right here. There is nothing worse. And people may not be honest with you, but Auntie Carla, I'm going to be so honest with y'all.
Please do.
That soggy crust, that andante, not done, gooey, goppy, pasty of a crust on the bottom of a pie and the chicken pot pie is not yummy.
Yeah.
Find our yummy, ladies. We have to find our yummy, and there's flavor in the brown when you cook that crust and you put it on the bottom. Yes. And then when you, oh my gosh, it's so good and it's flaky. Okay.
So if you get anything out of this today, ladies and gentlemen, if we have any male spouses on the call, find your yummy. We want to find the yummy.
Find your yummy. And honestly, and when I say that, a lot of times you think about how you lose yourself in your marriage and with your kids and all this, and you don't know who you are. You're just every day, you're just trying to put it out there. A lot of times people don't know what they think is good. So understand your salt tolerance and taste. Like, get a cup of water and put salt in it and taste it. Find out, like with sour, with lemon, with bitter, with baking soda, and with sweet, with sugar. When you are doing a dish, whenever I had cooks cook for me, I'm like, I want you to make a dish for me and I want to taste it because I want to know what you think is good.
Yeah.
Right? And so is it balanced? Does it have enough acid? Does it have enough salt? And a lot of times home cooks will just cook and they have a recipe, but they don't taste the food. I mean, I'm like, did you think this was good? I mean, no. But I mean, really, tell me you think it was good. Because if you do, I'm like, okay, now I need to tell you that you need to balance with acid. So either your tongue is coated, you had, I don't know, milk or dairy before, you can't taste, I don't know. But just try to really find your yummy and see what you think is good.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like by watching Top Chef, they're always talking about acid or salt or, so it's funny that you're saying
salt, fat, acid, heat. Yeah.
Yes. And speaking of Top Chef, we have someone's asking, how did you handle the nerves and pressure of the challenges on Top Chef? And what was your favorite part? Around.
Okay. I'm back. It was so stressful. I was on a plane with a guy yesterday and he was like, oh my gosh, you were on Top Chef. Was that fun? I'm like, maybe it was for you.
Right.
It was so stressful. It's stressful to be judged. I mean, you know what it's like to put some food in front of people at a dinner table and they're going like, Thanksgiving. Okay, ladies, think about Thanksgiving, right? And when you feel like, I hope everybody, it's a lot of pressure to live up to people's expectations of a meal or a holiday meal that's about food. Okay, so multiply that 100%. Okay. And that was Top Chef, and it's just the pressure. But the thing that I say about Top Chef, if you were on the top or the bottom, you got feedback. When you were in the middle, you got nothing.
Yeah.
So I learned to swing for the fences. I think my favorite moment was when it was season 5, and it was Restaurant Wars, and I'm standing there, and I just knew I was going to go home. And it was between me and Radhika. And I'm standing there, and I said, I'm probably going to go home. And my heart was beating so hard. If you had looked at my shirt, it was probably like this. And then at some point, I said, wait, nobody ever died here. Did we ever see anybody die? I'm literally having this conversation with myself. Have I ever seen anybody die here? No. And so I went like looking like this. I remember looking at Padma to like,
it's fine, right?
It's fine.
Yeah.
We put so much pressure on ourselves. And that was the moment that I started cooking better because I had nothing to lose. Nobody ever died. It wasn't a life and death situation.
Right.
So I actually was free to be myself.
Yeah.
Free to cook the food that I wanted to cook. And I said, I'm going to make food that I actually want to eat. So that was my biggest lesson, my favorite moment, and the moment that I carry with me. The other thing about Top Chef, and you all know this, is I got comfortable with being uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. That was the thing. When you all are moving and you're in another city, I'm sure you have probably gotten comfortable with being uncomfortable, even though it's hard. And that was the other thing that gave me.
I love that. I'm writing that down because that's huge. That's huge. And being a military spouse, you have to get uncomfortable quite a bit. So
yeah.
And well, I wanted to actually talk about the Dee Hoo thing because we talked about that earlier. And for some of the spouses on the call, they might not know what that is. So let's go into that a little bit.
So the Dee Hoo was a 2-part call that my husband and I would do to find each other in a grocery store. So one of them would say, Hootie, and the other would say, Who? And it was this 2-part call. But the thing that I didn't actually mention, so whenever, even now we still do it. So when somebody comes home and you know that the other is at home, so you come to the door, you're like, Hootie, and in the house, the other person is like, Who? And then you go back, and I say, Boo-doo. So it's a 4-part call, but that just made it seem too weird. So I was like, oh no, I'm not doing that. I'm like, I shared that with y'all, but yeah, I don't know that.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay. Back to the questions. I'm going to focus. All right. So Brittany wants to know, what is your favorite city to eat?
Oh, wow. It's so hard. It's so hard because whatever city I visit, I like to go where the locals go.
Yeah.
You know, like if I'm here, you're so close to Mexico. Maybe I'll do Tex-Mex. Maybe I'm going to do Mexican food, right? That I can't get in DC. So I do a little bit of research, like the best blah, 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 or what should I have when I go to a particular city. I loved Austin. I love the vibe. It was like Nashville to me, which is where I'm from. So that vibe.
You're from Nashville.
I'm from Nashville, Tennessee.
Love Nashville.
Mm-hmm. So oh my God, it's so hard because it's like saying when you're a mother, who's your favorite kid? Because each child is so different.
Yeah.
That I really just go and have these local moments in a city.
So go local. Try to find some local spots too.
I go local. You know, it's another thing that I do, and this is a fun thing to do with your kids when you go to a new city, and even when you're traveling. I go on these color walks, and so it's kind of like a walking meditation. But Matthew and I would sometimes we take our phones, and before we leave the house, we're like, okay, pick a color. And I may say orange, and he will say blue. And we do this walk, and we'll decide if it's going to be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or whatever. And we only take pictures of things that are that color. So it keeps you present, and especially with kids, they're using their phone for a family activity. And it's almost this meditative process. And it's not competitive. You're just looking, and you take a picture. You can also do shapes. You can do whatever. But it's a way to kind of mix it up. And it's also a great way to see a new city.
Yeah, that's huge. Oh, I love it. Love it. Okay. Let's see here. So we have Melissa's asking, and I want to give a shout out to Melissa because Melissa's actually at the Fort Campbell, Nashville, USO. There's spouses there today that have all gathered together to watch this live. So a shout out to those spouses today.
Shout out.
So Melissa wants to know, why do you not serve mashed potatoes on Thanksgiving?
We never did. I don't serve mashed potatoes. We do candy yams. No, I'm just kidding. I think with Southern soul food, we just never serve mashed potatoes. So my husband, who's from Michigan, he serves mashed potatoes. I really think most African Americans that I know do not have mashed potatoes for Thanksgiving. Now, you all chime up if there are any African American women who are out there. So my Thanksgiving meal would be cornbread dressing. I mean, it's heavily starched and carved out. Cornbread dressing, candied yams. I don't necessarily use the marshmallows. Candied yams, dressing, candied yams, collard greens. We do green beans, like roasted green beans or something like that. And of course, gravy, cranberry sauce. And I just never used, I mean, we've never had mashed potatoes unless I'm at my husband's house and he's from Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I love mashed potatoes. I just honestly don't think to have them.
It's not on the menu for Thanksgiving. Okay. I love it. Okay. Let's see here. Rachel wants to know, who is your favorite celebrity chef to cook with? Is that?
I saw Brittany. Brittany's like, never use mashed potatoes, candied yams, green beans.
Right.
So there are a lot of people. Oh, okay, Amy, you're like, what? No mashed potatoes, girl? You'd be so disappointed at my house. Yes, green bean casserole. We don't do it. Sometimes I would make a mushroom sauce and then roast the green beans and then do the homemade shallots. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, well,
you're good. So Rachel wants to know, what is your favorite celebrity chef to cook with? If you're allowed to say.
I am allowed to say. So I don't know if you all follow me on Instagram or my YouTube channel, but I recently got to cook with Jacques Pepin.
Stop.
Come on.
What?
What?
So cool. Where is he? Why is he with you right now?
So I love Jacques Pepin so much, okay? And I was at this event, and Jacques Pepin came up to me and said, Carla, I'm not even going to try to do a French accent. Okay.
I loved it.
I was going to try, and it really sounded horrible. Carla, I would love to cook with you. Why don't we think about doing a show together? Chat?
Yes. Thank you.
I was like, what?
Me? Anybody else?
I know, right? I was like, my eyes started to tear up, and I went to tell somebody else. And so we were talking to our agents about trying to cook together. Nobody was picking it up. And I said, you know what, Jacques, let's just do it on our own and put it up on YouTube and cook for, and then we can continue to cook with each other. It was the most magical thing. And he is so giving, and he is such a teacher, and and just watching his hands. I love hands. Like, there are teeth people out there. I am a hands person. I love to watch people's hands. Oh my gosh, it was fantastic. I can't wait to do another one. Oh my gosh. I seriously.
We can find that on YouTube, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look up Carla Hall and Jacques Pepin. Chef Andre Rush. Ilan was asking. I don't know who that is. Who's that? Who's Andre Rush?
A supporter of the USO, a chef that's done a couple things with us as well. So.
Okay, somebody said Michael Symon. Okay, come on, that goes without saying. Michael Symon and Kelly. I love those guys. Seriously, we were so close, and I still, text them. And I was doing something out in LA, and I was leaving, and Clinton was coming, and I love them. So I love cooking with them.
Yep. And Michael Symon's from Cleveland, right? Because I'm from Ohio, yes. So I was big fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Ilan. So he's another USO supporter who previously cooked at the White House, former Army vet turned certified chef, pastry chef, ice sculptor, and puppy rescuer. Whoa, and he's 110% muscle child. What?
He's got the muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Jenna wants to know, do you do any events in DC?
I do. I'm trying to think. A lot of times when I'm in DC, I'm just not working, but I do things at the National Museum of African American History and Culture, or the African American Museum of History and Culture, NAMAC. And so I do events there, And I did an event at, I'm trying to think, oh my gosh, the Hilton House. It was over there on Pennsylvania Avenue. But usually when I'm doing events there, I will publicize it. And I do things for AARP and the day of service that, I'm not really cooking, but I'm there hosting and rallying the troops.
Yep.
And, yeah.
Love it. And Brittany wants to know, do you ever cook vegan baked goods? No. Okay.
Okay. I don't do vegan baked goods. I do vegan savory food. However, if you look on my website, I do have a vegan biscuit because come on,
Right.
I do a vegan biscuit with cashew yogurt. And the woman that I mentioned, who is my social media manager, and she does like cooking events with me, Kristen Hartke, Hartke, Kristen with an E. She did, and this is not a baked good, but she did an article. She writes for the Washington Post on vegan cheeses.
Ooh.
And so when you can take and make a vegan cheese or a cashew and taking that cheese and letting it age, you almost have something that's comparable to buttermilk with the fat content to use in really great vegan biscuits. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've made vegan. Oh, I think I've made a vegan chocolate cake.
Okay. All right.
I don't know how good that was. It's probably not.
How'd that taste?
Actually, vegan chocolate cake is really good.
Is it? Okay.
It is actually good for anybody. Any and everybody would still like it.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the one thing that people don't realize, well, you have to have a substitution for egg, but oil in cakes makes the crumb really tender.
Yeah.
Versus butter. Butter is the flavor, and oil makes it really moist and tender.
Okay. Good. I will take that note. My little guy, I have a little toddler and he's allergic to dairy, so this is very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amanda wants to know, what is your favorite meat and vegetable to cook with?
Right now, Matthew, we can have an air fryer.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a super fast air fried chicken that is so good. I think we have that twice a week.
Oh, really?
Sometimes we don't even use the flour. It is so delicious. You set your air fryer at 390 and you put your spices on and you put it in there. You don't turn it skin side up, and it is delicious. And recently I just did roasted green beans in the air fryer. Is anybody, oh my God. Okay, Amy, I've been wanting to get an air fryer, but what, girl? You can actually make biscuits in your air fryer because it's all of that circulated air. You're only going to be on 4. But the air fryer is the bomb diggity. We had ours for 2 years before I was doing this thing where I had to use it. And I was like, Matthew, here's a recipe. Can you get the air fryer out? He's like, I said, do you have some chicken at home? And so I sent him the recipe. He made it, and it was amazing. So I'm telling you. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I love it. No way. That's fun. Okay. Allison wants to know, what is your favorite Southern food?
Wow. Let me count the ways. This is probably going to surprise you all, but so my latest cookbook, Carla Hall Soul Food, Every Day in Celebration, I love vegetables.
Yep.
So I love succotash. Oh my God, I love succotash with the corn and the beans, and it's what limas, green beans, and corn. I love succotash. I love this peach and tomato salad. It sounds that it's crazy, but it's so good with grilled meat, where you take, right now the peaches are so good and the tomatoes, you slice them up and you make a quick little dressing with just like a vinegar and an oil and some chili peppers. You guys are right down here where you like the chilies. You take those chilies and some red onions and you toss it, and some salt and pepper. It is so delicious, and it's so good with any kind of meat, and it's fast.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, a black eyed pea salad. I like salads and cold stuff with a hot sauce vinaigrette. What?
Woo! Well, and I
Um,
mean, everything's so fresh too. And it's around dinner time, so it just sounds so, everything you're
I
talking.
am so hungry right now. I don't know what I'm going to eat, but I'm talking myself into something delicious.
Oh, yum. Yeah. And you're a good area with food too.
Oh, thanks, Danielle. She listed my books here. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Danielle. Danielle is our producer that's talking to everybody on the side in the chat, and we love Danielle. So thank you, Danielle, for helping us out with this. We've got.
Oh, I just want to say really quickly, you may have a hard time finding Carla Hall. I mean, no, there's a third one. Oh, called Comfort Foods, favorite dishes from around the world, because that one, it's out of print, and I bought all the copies that were left. So they're in my storage. They're in my storage in New York, but you may be able to find it, a used copy. Okay, I just want to let you all know.
No, just in case.
I love that book. I seriously, let me tell you why I love that book. It was so, that book really didn't get the play, but let me tell you the reason I love that book. So that book has a spice chart, and it has 18 different cuisines. And if you're in a rut and you know how to roast a chicken, and you're like, what do I do today? You look at those 18 different cuisines, and it is straightforward spices that you can find at the grocery store to change that chicken. And that's how you actually should be thinking about cooking. You need to not only know how to make 5 things, and you change the spices, now it's 5 times 18.
Well, I'm going to have to go find that storage closet and get that.
I know. You may be able to find that book. It really is so good, but it just didn't get the play.
Well, I'm sure it's out there somewhere if you really need to find it. So, okay. Oh, we'll buy them. Okay, yeah, good. All right, and let's do one more question because we are almost at time. Shanna wants to know, what are your goals for the future?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a small question.
It's deep.
I'm going to tell you. So I'm going to go back to, I don't set goals. I'm afraid, and this is true talk. I'm afraid to set goals because I'm afraid of not making them because I put so much pressure on myself.
Yeah.
So I make intentions, and I'm going to explain that in a way like going to the grocery store. So, my intention would be to have a job that I'm so happy in, and I'm working with people who enjoy what they do, and it's just a wonderful experience. And I got that with the Chew. So the difference between goals and intention. So let's say I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to make a lasagna. And I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to make a lasagna, and you get to the store and you can't find the lasagna noodles. You can't find ricotta cheese. You can't find Parmesan cheese. And then you're like, oh well, I can't make anything because I was so focused on that one thing.
Yeah.
I want to go to the store and I want to make something delicious. So when I go in the grocery store now, I have so many options. So I may see something on sale that's chicken. So now, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Samples, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so good. This is so delicious. I want to make this. I am afraid to make a goal because it is so specific that I feel like I am going to not see something else come through for me.
Yeah.
Set an intention. I am surprised and happy about that thing. So
I love it. And I love that was the last question. That was huge. So
yeah.
Carla, this has been so much fun.
You are amazing.
So much for doing this and for talking to all of the spouses that have joined this and for being a USO supporter and supporting the military families and service members. We adore you, and we hope to hopefully do this again sometime. Let's have coffee again or dinner.
Let's have coffee again. And you all, thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do, because I think that a lot of people don't realize how much you give up to be a spouse. And I learned that just being involved with the USO, and I know how much you give, but hold back a little piece for yourself, because I know you have kids and you have a husband, but holding back that piece for yourself would give them more than you realize.
Huge. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And for next month, everybody, we have Corey Weathers on October 10th. She's going to be doing our next Coffee Connection Live. She's going to talk about marriage in the military, and it'll be at noon. So we'll send you out the information on that as soon as we have it. And Carla, thank you again. Have fun in Texas, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye, ladies.
Bye, everybody.